So hey and I'm fans. The series name is What If Ndo Got Harem with Voltron. So let's start the series. When Ndo, or perhaps his clone, looked down at the two animals he had found valuable, they were staring at him in utter shock. It seemed odd to consider how different they seemed to be. Scratch's eyes were now a brilliant shade when slitted, and Judy appeared to have a Byakugan. So Scratch replied, "Might you at any point clarify for us exactly what is happening, Ndo?" Judy began, but the beast in front of them was too big for her to remember. "Better believe it, we might want to know why our child just turned into an R," she replied. Finally, Ndo used the word human. "Certainly, why exactly are you a human?" Judy asked, seeing her child's ongoing development. Judy begins writing on her recorder as Ndo begins his story, saying, "I think I should try to make sense of this all along. But, this story will take some time, so settle in." The following monsters, the Sage of Six Ways, Ndo, and the four original headmasters, were all part of Group 7. Group 7 has refixed the hair goddess Otsutsuki female into the moon. "It's the ideal opportunity for us to get back to the unadulterated land, Ndo," adds Minato. He concludes by stating, "I can hardly stand by to fill your mom in regarding my experience with you." Ndo looks with tears in his eyes. "Hello Ndo friend, might you at some point discharge the endless Tsukiyomi now?" "Not yet, something feels off." Ndo's friend, who saw people balancing in the branches above them, leaped, leaning on one of the carcasses hanging from the tree, his eyes widening suddenly. Immediately, he sliced into the tree, and to the surprise of all, Niji was hanging there. The branch had also partially sealed the wound through which it had entered his chest. Everyone is in utter astonishment as Ndo friend jumps from the tree and starts looking into it, after examining one of Niji's eyes intently and said, "I think the limitless Tsukiyomi took the collections of the people who kicked the bucket also. Alright, so from its vibes, this spirit art has taken not just every living human on the planet, yet additionally the carcasses of the bodies actually transmitting core energy," replies the friend of Ndo. "I believe on the off chance that I alter the spirit art, we could possibly bring back the people who kicked the bucket in the conflict, as well as any shinobi whose body was discharging core energy." "So you are saying yourself can alter the spirit art to mend everyone over the long run?" Sakura inquires. "However, adapting the spirit art will require some time and help from both you and Ndo. Since I can implant your 100 healings method into the tree, and Ndo uses the Yang-type core energy to actually alter it. For course," Ndo friend responds, "and perhaps restore him." Together with Ndo friend, Ndo and Sakura gestured and went toward the tree. Ndo placed his right hand on the tree near Ndo friend's, while Ndo friend placed his left on the yeti. Sakura then attacked the two young men with her 100 healings core energy. They released the tree and each other once a heartbeat was sent through Group 7 and the real tree. Group 7 took a step back as the tree's front began to change shape. Immediately, 12 sections popped up in the tree. 3 of them were designed for humans, and the others were large enough to hold the creatures who followed. Suddenly, the Rincharingen designs started to appear on the wall. Ndo friend stated, "Sorry about this folks," while examining the monsters that were being pursued. "Your core energy is to be utilized in the 100 healings method to mend the people who passed on." He understood. "We can't gamble with anyone transforming into a white Zetsu. I'll never be able to go back to that F*** N tree again." Ichiha exclamation point, the beast fox roared. As Fox Beast looked at his sister, Matadabi remarked, "Nai-san, we need to do this." It was clear everywhere that Fox Beast had been humiliated without reason, and he took a moment to think. "Are you scared of being in the never-ending Tsukiyomi, or do what has to be done?" said Jayuki. After using her family's resources to check out, Kokuo came to the realization that we should take care of business, the world requirements to fix itself in any case, we unquestionably can't assist with that. She ended by slapping her tail and saying, "Raise your tails in case you will assist with speeding this up." At that point, Matadabi attacked Child Goku, Jayuki, Chimei, Isobu, Seiken, and Shukaku. Fox Beast eventually brought his tails after an episode. Once all of the monsters listed below had entered the rooms, Sakura seized the one in the center. Ndo is on the right, and Ndo friend is on the left. The long period of human recovery started when 6th headmaster had all of his wraps on. Fox Beast growled, "Since everyone agrees to this," Ndo friend said, "please creep into the various chambers in the tree." His eye streaked before the Rincharingen design appeared overhead. Humans were gradually replaced by various vertebrates, and everyone immediately became a victim of this process. A reference to the 100 healings was made by the wood over Sakura's room, which was fashioned like a gem and had sections of wood blocking off the chamber passages. When Ndo initially woke up and gazed up into a caustic green sky, he remembered it as the root aspect, or whatever Dark Zetsu called it. And Ndo friend's voice shouted, "Ndo?" When Ndo turned to look around, he saw Sakura and his friend standing close by. The friend held up his fake brother with his outstretched hand. Where might we be? According to Ndo, it appears to be a feature of Otsutsuki female roots. Then, from the very beginning, a huge violet circle with various plants connected to its sides appeared. Ndo's friend's eyes widened and he lifted his left palm and focused, saying, "Allow me to take a stab at something." The plants emerged by pulling roots out of the ground, and with them came oval-shaped turquoise cases, some of which held natural humans and some of which did not. Finally, though, they were able to see the sixth headmaster. Master, sixth head! Sakura said this before pulling their teacher from the room. "How are you, Master?" As he groaned, the sixth headmaster grabbed his head and inquired. If he hadn't been wearing a veil, his cheeks would have been flushed. "I was entering the enchanted realm of Tsukiyomi. I will not elaborate on what it was," said sixth headmaster. "I have worked everything out such that everybody can leave their Tsukiyomi universes voluntarily." Ndo's companion claimed that as he approached the violet circle, the sphere appeared to beat, and that some people began to avoid the cases. "Presently I just communicated something specific clarifying the circumstance for everybody in a manner they can comprehend. In any case, there is a simpler strategy than hauling individuals out of the units." "How might they understand what you mean?" Ndo inquired. "The Tsukiyomi fantasy land can interpret my message to them, but I have no idea how." Ndo's buddy shrugged his shoulders. "When is everyone going to recover?" The sixth headmaster asked, looking at Sakura. "Sadly, with this many individuals, it will require thousands, on the off chance that not huge number of years," Ndo stated, trying to calm his partner. "Remember that I messed up the sequence of events here, Ndo. Remember that 3 days in real life are equal to 1 second here. 2 years have, in my opinion, proactively passed." Ndo's buddy realized what had happened. Ndo looked at his teammate in confusion as he checked out. "Basically, it goes like this. 1 second equals 3 days, 1 moment equals 180 days, 2 minutes equals 360 days / 1 year, 1 hour equals 30 years, 1 day equals 720 years, multi-week equals 50-40 years, multi-month equals 20,160 / 22,320 years, 1 year equals 262,800 years." After considering the situation and having an episode, Ndo came to the conclusion that by and by, I figure we will be hanging around for 1 year, best case scenario, to 20 years to say the least. "Okay, got it. Something final. I would recommend having a shadow clone continuously watch it." Ndo received it and sent a clone to one of the pools, which will allow us to watch this present reality as it advances through the moon. His friend pressed his pass close to the ground and supplied a few stone supports to help Ndo remember water basins that might be in a nursery. "What's happening at the moment?" I was curious about Sakura. My friend Ndo appeared worn out. Presently, we pause. 1 year is the spirit art time skip number. The young men went on their hunt and discovered a pride of lions lounging around the fire. Ndo's partner came up to him, pointed at the strange sheen, and said, "Ndo friend, come take a gander at this." A strange glow caught Ndo's attention as he peered into the survey pools. Sakura ran over and said, "HN," to which a friend of Ndo said, "It seems that one more animal type has at long last begun to accept the mantle as generally progressed." During the 4th Great Shinobi Battle, the Earth allegedly broke up into numerous smaller landmasses, although Sakura indicated another place inside the survey pool on a section of land that was isolated from the rest of the continent. In any event, Sakura said that a bunch of hares had obviously created a wooden wheel, adding, "Ndo friend Kun, Ndo, you will have a hard time believing what Ino and I found." Sakura pointed to the region they had been examining and added, "So lions are by all accounts not the only propelling creatures," in response to Ndo's remark. 2 years is the spirit art time skip. Currently monitoring the survey pool, Ndo and Cute Ninja were in a really intriguing situation. A hare allegedly captured a fox that was attempting to follow her, and it appeared that a criminal alliance had formed. Telling her buddy, "It's sweet when things like this happen," the Cute Ninja stated. "You wouldn't say?" "Better believe it. Hello Cute Ninja-chan." "Really, Ndo-kun? Do you think it's strange that I have sympathy for the foxes?" Ndo questioned, turning to face the adorable ninja. Following some consideration, Cute Ninja said, "It's not strange. I mean, for some reason, everyone thinks the foxes are cunning, and in interspecies networks they are constantly given harsh looks," she said. "Exactly, I bet the vast majority who heard that would figure it out to be a reference to my Jinchuriki status," Ndo stated during the motion. "You see me?" said Ndo and Cute Ninja as they turned around and spotted the recognizable silhouette of a humanoid fox. The fox himself joined them at the pool to observe. The fox beast was now 6 feet tall and able to walk on 2 legs, in contrast to his normal shape. "So what might occur?" I feel that when they get to the watering opening, Bounces will live with Wild in a lair in the safeguarded region, then either her family will be found dead or the family returns and attempts to remove Hops strongly from Wild, and knowing how these circumstances frequently work, a bunny suitor will be hanging tight for her with her tribe. Fox Beast stated. Ndo said, glancing at the two oddly attractive women, yes, I suppose we'll see. The time skip no spirit art is 5 years. Somehow, just like when Obito's soul had him, the sixth headmaster was able to employ Sharingan in both eyes. They're not sure how. One of the numerous facets of Otsutsuki Girl is that he was in a glade with a lake in the middle. Everyone eventually moved on, and Ndo's friend even referred to sixth headmaster as his favorite Uchiha, claiming that sixth was like a cousin. He was grateful, but he turned down the offer. The Ndo student asked, like this Ndo nice and ? Ndo's hand moved, while holding a fire-shaped wind ball in his palms, with the aid of 2 shadow clones. Fantastic work, Ndo student. You are doing fantastically. How is your training in sensual art going ? After the Ndo student scoffed and took a contemplative stance, a third person entered the field and said, you actually need more command over it, but basically you didn't grow irregular patches of hair across your body. Ndo grinned as his eyes became more focused, his complexion hazier, and his hair wilder, growing a tail. Ndo clapped as the circle broke up. The Emperor of Sage Monkeys, who was following Child Goku, the primate, said, pleasant tail however baby. The Ndo pupil looked at his butt and saw the brunette tail he had grown. The master of the child ! The human and gorilla said, hey Ndo Nai-san, child master, who else is doing sensprit art preparing? Ndo student gestured to the pursuing monster, who volunteered to get him ready, following the long period of stillness. All things considered, I realize that Seiken is showing Sakura, Tsunade, Ino, and Shizune. Even though their bodies were reportedly on the verge of mush, Seiken's tails hit the other two just before they stabilized. The six-tailed humanoid slug was practicing sensual art core energy, while seated in front of 4 women in a cavern-like environment. Both the elder blonde woman and the younger one with the pink hair were more productive. Their eyes and complexion were as bright as the primary headmaster's when he employed sensuous art. Tsunade, Sakura, you both are doing extraordinary engrossing the sensprit art core energy. Ino, Shizune, both of you really want work. I additionally accept Matatabi is preparing Ndo friend and Karen. Matatabi sat leg over leg in front of 2 students in a bamboo forest, while her understudies, Karen and Ndo Buddy, were behaving like cats. In addition to having a yellow Sharingan in his right eye and a Woodland's green Sharingan in his left, Ndo's pal appeared to have bluer hair, a fleecy blue tail, and feline ears. With the exception of her crimson ears and tail, Karen's looks were similar to her own. Matatabi stood up as well. As the 2 understudies argued, Matatabi yelled, start. Karen was in a mirrored posture with her right hand behind her, saying, presently cats, show your feline kumite. Isobu is preparing that Suigetsu imp and that truly bashful kid from water with the blue hair and glasses. The 3 followed Turtle sat before his 2 apprentices, Suigetsu, who had blue scales behind his eyes, and Chijiro, who had scales on his nose tip, brow, and cheeks. It obviously irritated Suigetsu, but he kept his temper in check. Excellent work Chijiro. Suigetsu, you actually need to deal with your procedure. Jayuki is preparing a Komabi, Jugo, and Derry. Jayuki moaned as he saw Ren and Jugo engaging in another battle with sensual art bullhorns, both of whom are in dire need of assistance. I don't know who, but I believe Chimay is getting ready for some Kamizuru and Abiram factions. I'm also not sure if Kokuo or Fox Beast are getting ready for anyone. One of the Ndo students inquired, what can be said about Shukaku-san? Most likely preparation Gara and perhaps Temari. The purpose of the scene was to illustrate what Shukaku accomplished by obfuscating the reader's viewpoint. What is the matter with you? Quote go now. Investigating further, the Ndo student found Kurotsuchi, his rival collaborator, whom he could identify as a Sandame's granddaughter. They each claimed to be worthy grandchildren of Sandame, the good man of their communities. Also, finally I'm preparing you and Kurotsuchi under my tutelage. Ndo said, all right, I'll see you guys later, and then turned to leave. The Ndo student waved, Ndo Nai-san, see you later. Spirit art has been around for 19 years. Once again, it was long overdue, everyone had been treated, and now was the ideal moment for humanity to roam the earth. All of humanity was present at this moment, with the 5 Cage and Group 7 staying on a support point to be ready for the great announcement. People! The root area erupted in cheers as Ndo declared, everyone has been recovered, the time has come to plan for our return, be ready to go out in 30 minutes. Indeed, humanity has awoken and is here on the planet! Ndo went to his lifelong friend after leaving the place of assistance. Fox Beast, we will be the ones to deliver the spirit art, and more than anything else, we really want to find some place where we can make bodies to do this, he said. What suggestions do you have? I assume I know some place we can get vessels, Fox Beast said with a fox-like smile. Are you talking about what I think you are talking about? Quoting quiet Ndo. Ndo grinned charmingly and remarked, in reality, ripening was one of my powers, as the two siblings jumped into a special survey pool that his friend had made. Giving the limitless Tsukiyomi a body would help them feel normal. I haven't really used it like this, but I figure it might very well work. One of the numerous homes had a couple sleeping inside, who were actually a fox and a bunny. Fox Beast began to cautiously pump his core energy into the hare's stomach again, remembering the two hazy sights that lingered above the bunny. Without hesitation, he smirked when he was finished. No and Fox Beast were on the ground, and all that was apparent of them were eerie, hazy images. They eventually made it to Savannah Square after hopping from roof to roof. Fox Beast, what was Ndo's last statement before the animal seized his wrist and seemed to have pierced the bunny's body. The following morning, Scratch woke up to the sound of a shivering, animated bunny. Scratch, make a fresh start. It's been fixed, Judy said, grabbing a little white object. For Pete's sake, Stuart regrettably skipped their wedding. He could have done without Scratch and Judy cooperating. You seem revitalized, Scratch said sleepily. Does your dad finally back us? Far superior, Judy shouted, in a manner that reminded Scratch of a certain obese cheetah. Something that should have been unthinkable just happened instead. Somewhere, Benjamin Clawhauser sniffed sadly over his donut. What happened? Scratch returned the question. I'm pregnant, Judy said, showing Scratch the pregnancy test. Scratch thought of a way to explain the problem to Bogo after he and his bunny lover left for work. Has this ever occurred before? Hello Judy, Judy remarked, glancing at her spouse. Would you ever search the internet for more interspecies children? Judy realized and continued looking. After 10 minutes, Judy yelled. Scratch's eyes widened as Judy, unable to speak, said, I have seen many articles about interspecies couples, yet none have had the option to consider any kids, adding, there aren't any mud creatures in the world, so I can't find anything about them. Are you saying you mean my thought process? Scratch inquired. Judy shouted excitedly, there is no doubt that our children will be the progenitors of a completely new animal species. So what are we going to say to them? Which would we rather keep a secret for the time being, only notifying a select few, or expose that the first hunter-prey mutt was thought to be the first crossbreed? As he pulled into the parking area, Scratch asked, walked around the car, and opened the door for Judy. Judy glanced at Scratch as she stepped out, then followed her hand inside the ZPD. Judy looked down at two of the ZPD's best and asked, is the boss in? The far-big_boned cheetah responded, hello Clawhauser. He is definitely free and doing quite well. Why are you asking? We really want to talk about some things with him, Judy remarked, putting her hand on her stomach now. With his eyes widening and his hands covering his mouth, Clawhauser grabbed the receiver and exclaimed, Boss Bogo, officials wild have shown up and make them invigorate news. Judy and Scratch walked to the headquarters office, where Boss Bogo met them and read through the files, asking in his typically harsh manner, what do you need? The central voice over the receiver responded, send them in. In fact, how to put this? Judy started, but Scratch was already done. My significant other should be placed on leave, maternity leave to be exact, said Scratch, and Bogo's eyes widened. When Bogo accidentally hit his amplifier, he yelled, are you expecting? Telling everyone that Judy Wild was having a kid? Whoops. I guess it's pointless to keep my pregnancy a secret, stated Judy simply. People do pay attention to meat-eating bunnies. Scratch glanced at Judy, who was sipping a cup of ramen next to her, and said from the computer in the living room, after conducting all the required research, I would estimate that it will take a month and a half before our mutt is conceived. Judy had cravings ever since she became pregnant, and most of them were for chicken and ramen. After 14 days, when Scratch and Judy went to a clinical facility to find out more about their children's features, many columnists needed to know what this fox hare mutt might look like, not because they were hostile, but to keep interspecies meetings out. Scratch would be shocked if he didn't know Stuart. Judy had an odd encounter with her parents while working and eating chicken at the time. Her father became upset when she told him she was pregnant and tried to convince her to go back to Rabbit Tunnel. Judy glared at her father and doused him with fox repellent. Judy and her handsome husband entered through the main doors and said, ugh, none of these creatures understand the value of separate space. A badger with a graph was in room 304. Scratch yelled with enthusiasm as they headed to a private room. The columnists' carrots, any word connecting with individual space, was torn from the word references the second they landed that position. Mrs. It's nice to see you, Wild. Could you please lay this on so I may apply the ultrasound gel? Then he stroked the cart and added, the badger applied the gel to Judy's shirt after she agreed. Judy cried out, cold. The badger used an ultrasound wand to press down on Judy's stomach as the ultrasound gel was being applied. Eventually, when he pressed the wand repeatedly against Judy's stomach, her eyes suddenly widened. The badger put down the wand and turned to the computer. "Is something off base?" inquired Scratch. "Well, you have 5 kids complete," she replied, 3 young men and 2 young ladies. The medical caregiver got solid at this point, and Judy and Scratch looked into this inevitable conduct. "How much do they resemble each other?" Judy asked. 4 of them look like foxes but have longer ears, while one is a bunny with a longer tail. "And more?" Quote uncomfortably, Judy asked. "Two of the mess appear to have encountered an uncommon change in the quantity of tails," she said. "Are you implying that 2 of our children have 2 tails?" "Hold on." Scratch said as he made his way to his haven. It was clear that 2 of the guardians-to-be had 9 tails when the badger showed them the screen. Their ears looked like they had been removed from a bunny instead of a hare. The badger responded, "No," and Judy released a breath she was unaware she had been holding. "They have 9 tails each." Unaware of either of them, a Vol columnist in the Air Channel was watching the action and snapped a photo of the screen showing Scratch and Judy's kids. Scratch and Judy were in their house with the package that contained the details about their children, and Judy was expecting any day now. "Hello, Scratch," Judy replied, feeling about her abdomen. The prods now showed that she was expecting. "What would be a sensible response on our part? Is it prudent for us to inform others about our children's health?" Scratch was staring at his phone when he handed it to Judy, who couldn't accept the status quo, and he said, "I don't think we have a decision. Carrots, see this." She was shocked to see that the photo that was attached, "Mutt youngsters with 9 tails," was a picture of her ultrasound that had been at the hospital. "Carrots, what are we going to do?" Scratch questioned, returning the phone to Judy, who was feeling sick and completely astonished. "Scratch, they're coming," yelled Judy, and she collapsed to the floor. "You own her!" A medical caregiver yelled as Judy was being escorted into a working room. People arrived as soon as the doors were opened. "Loosen up, Judy, you will be fine." Judy had a lengthy and terrible birth, Scratch, who was close to his companion, said. "Now, this is the final one!" As one of the attendants observed upon the conception of the last kid, the last child washed, wrapped, and placed in his mother's arms with his other relatives. His ears resembled those of a rabbit rather than a hare, his hair was the same fiery red as his father's, and he was covered in odd dark patterns that extended from his snout to his eyes, and finally to his massive ears. Judy noticed slitted pupils and dark red rings as he opened his eyes. One of the 9 units that were followed was the core idea. "Should we give him the name Judy?" Scratch asked, glancing down at the unit. Judy thought of the name right away. Fox Beast. According to Scratch, "Where did you think of that, Kumarama?" "I like it," Judy remarked. "I don't have the foggiest idea, it just came to me," as she looked at the pack behind her. The second was a young woman who looked like a fox, with long pointed ears like her older brother, tan belly hair, and a hazier, more reddish back and tail, in contrast to Scratch's, whose chestnut fur matched the pack's piercing purple eyes. "What's up with Vivienne?" Judy suggested. "After my mother?" Scratch said. Scratch looked at the cute little fox, who squeaked and turned to face him. "Of course, we were thinking of naming one after her, and this one helps me the most to remember her," Judy continued. "Then," Scratch said, "Vivienne it is then." At that point, he glanced at the next kid, a young lady with raven-colored fur, a magnificent tail, and bunny ears. What was remarkable about her was that she had blue fur, which was a highly surprising fur variety among mammals that were normally well evolved. He gazed into her stunning ice blue eyes. Although they didn't speak, Scratch said, "Yoru." The next child was a hare, but with sharp teeth and a gag on him, and unlike his other cousins, he had fox ears and a hair tail which contrasted sharply with his white-lined bleached blonde coat. He was energetic and fighting in his mother's arms. "What's wrong with Reynard?" Scratch asked, glancing at Judy. "Really?" The 2 looked at the youngest child, who had gorgeous, nearly brilliant yellow fur, well-defined hair, and bright blue eyes. The 9 flowing tails on his back, however, were the most noticeable feature. "That's all," Scratch said. Judy processed the words, "Ndo." "Thus, we have Fox Beast, Vivienne, Reynard, Yoru, and Ndo. The principal had mutts as a child." Scratch and Judy had just gotten home from a long day at work. More irritated than worn out, Scratch said, "I really understand that in order for it to be used in court, we must complete the administrative process. In any event, it is a recent abuse that we might be using to apprehend criminals. If there was an opportunity to fight the evil of desk job, it was this." Although Judy detested desk work as well, she had seen a lot of it previously and understood that Bogo had to handle the majority of the administrative work because he was in command of the ZPD. "It's essential for the gig, Scratch, so manage it," Judy stated grumpily. When they got to the loft, the strange couple took off their documenting disaster. The Wild family had moved into a first-rate apartment complex on the 17th floor of a building in Savannah Focal, and their unit was definitely superior than the one Judy had been occupying. The bitter couple entered the elevator and the building. Now that 2 months have gone by, is there any chance the media will take a vacation? As Judy almost cried out, when will they just stop focusing on our children? They are, in fact, distinct in the primary mutts in general. Scratch put his left paw on her shoulder. Scratch felt Judy's shoulder tight as he sat tight for their floor, peering at the entrance. Scratch glances over Judy's shoulder and discovers a news article. Everything in the city has been going nicely for the past few months, but this is the most intriguing development at the moment. I'm sure that when another huge report seems the subject of our packs will drop. Granddad of mutts detests his grandkids, he continues. After glancing at the news report behind Judy, Scratch murmurs, I can't trust this. So, Mr. Hops, you never supported your girl's lifestyle choices? Judy just replied, no, before shutting off her phone and putting her device away. I've tried multiple times to get her back to our house and out of the neighborhood, but I typically discourage interspecies relationships. The idea that I adore a fox is something I just can't get over! As the doors opened, Judy cried out, what the devil is wrong with my dad? She went from the elevator into the foyer and stopped yelling as Scratch put his hands on her shoulders. When Scratch and Judy get to their condo, they say, what he says won't hurt us, or on the other hand our units. The lounge was really large, with a fox-sized lounge area table and an open kitchen. Don't put too much pressure on Carrots. He opens and leads to a spacious loft with a patio and a clear distant wall. The female voice said, great to see both of you back, and he saw an otter with mostly blue clothes that matched her clothes' black fur. Joseph is higher up putting No and Fox Beast to rest, he said, and then he continued down the corridor and into the next chamber, the one with the young men and ladies. When he entered the child's room, he saw a very clever scene in which Joseph was trying to keep Fox and No Beast in their caves, and when he looked up, the father of the young guys he was trying to put to sleep was there. Are you having any problems, Joseph? Scratch checked on them and received a friendly nod from the sitter, who immediately took Fox Beast from the bunk and started to hug the red-eyed fox in his arms while feigning agitation. When Scratch inquired, the otter dragged No out of his bunk and started to hug the perceptive fox, asking, Joseph, would you treat No the same way? After holding the two kids for a short while until they dozed off, Judy went inside with the female otter while the two males went to the dens. The now famous female otter was told by Judy to just put Reynard in his bunk. Layla. After all three of the babies had fallen asleep, Layla muttered, of course. Then she went to the middle lodge and held the child in her arms in the bunk, and the four warm-blooded animals silently left the room and made their way to the main level. Gratitude for minding units, I realize they can be a seriously modest bunch. Judy said. Simply relax, it's okay, it's when there are 30 units that things become hard. Layla rubs the back of her neck uncomfortably in response. At any rate, we ought to begin heading home, mother could do without it when we're late. Joseph rejoined the two otters as they were about to depart. Now that the units are sleeping, Judy, what are your plans? Scratch inquired. You lost the mission, Judy said before remembering, so you should rub my foot. Okay, hold tight, said Scratch, and he took Judy and carried her to their room. While the rest of the Wild family gathered in the lounge watching a movie, Yoru focused on her mother. Mom, why do criminals usually wear foxies? Sincerely concerned as to why certain members of her kind were causing trouble, Yoru asked. Looking at her little girl, Judy responded, yes, sweetheart. As Yoru became inquisitive and stretched out her tongue to see whether it was silver, Scratch interrupted, saying, it's a hyperbole, Yoru, but a tongue of silver would be cool. Foxes are often bad guys, since they have the wily abilities and silver tongue to play the exemplary reprobate, Scratch remarked. They scowled at each other, but Scratch waved it away with a smile, put the two young men on his lap, and put an arm over Judy, grinning. Judy arched an eyebrow at the remark, but chose to ignore it as Vivian and Reynard digged deeper into their mother's fur and clothes. Yoru leaned over and took her father's arm, and as Scratch hurried to his little girl, Fox Beast fell off his head and struck No, who was standing close to him. Judy believed this was how each day would end. On this, the Wild children's favorite day at school, the atmosphere was tense, with Reynard gripping his mother's knee in terror, No and Fox Beast putting on inflated fronts, and Vivian and York talking. Try not to stress, Reynard, you will be okay, Judy says to her young child. All right, remember everyone. Scratch is credited with saying, remain together, and assuming that somebody singles out you, you recall what I say. It was the quintuplets who stated, never let them see that they get to us. As their children entered the building for their most memorable school day, Scratch grinned triumphantly and said, exactly, waving as they said, off you go then. At that point, the neckline of Reynard's shirt was torn, he was forced to the ground, and a rhino twice his age bit him without his knowledge. Well, it isn't one of the little oddity shows, gave Reynard a shake from the despotic jerk. Jason, let me go, Reynard screamed as he writhed in the now named Jason's hold. Goddamned better believe it, what would make it wise for me to do so? A yikes exclamation point. After letting go of Reynard and grasping his leg, Jason answered, turning to gaze behind him and finding that Reynard's 9 had indeed followed his brother Ndo. Don't bother my sibling, he is more modest than you and around 50% of your age, that is simply unacceptable, replied Ndo. Looks like the biggest oddity show has arrived. Jason hurried at him and Ndo changed and started to run away from the charging rhino, avoiding obstacles and making a few twists and turns to try to confuse and agitate the rhino, and when he turned a corner, the rhino followed him. Ndo stood with his back against a wall, looking scared, and Jason smoked as he lunged for the fox, but as he struck the vulpine, a brick facade broke and glass shattered, and when he turned to face him, Ndo was still standing behind him. With his eyes wide and an electric lamp under his face, Ndo threw his clenched hand out of sight and peered at his apologies. The mirror trick truly works! Ndo yells, ha! Once more, don't meddle with my family! Ndo spoke in a lovely white-out whisper. Jason yelled, I guarantee, as his anxiety with Ndo's regular presence began to grow. Great, farewell! After stating this, Ndo returned to his customary activities before quitting the area. The instructor saw that the rhino had damaged a wall when they opened the door after passing it. Child, you have to stop doing this, Judy said, glancing at Ndo, who was fine but had a peculiar manner. Ndo grumbled, Mother, this is how I help people. The plan was likely to succeed if he could intimidate the controlling jerks into making concessions, as he did with Jason. Judy was about to yell, by turning yourself into an object. Remember the 2 times when the controlling jerks got you? Ndo declared that he would be in charge of the ZPD and that he must be a police officer like his parents. Everyone laughed at his desires and he began his job of making the world a better place by acting as a vigilante at school and threatening him. Also the chances of one of them getting me is 1 out of 10, cries Ndo. But when it comes to business, they threaten again, sometimes for years, the months before. Child, in the event that you see harassing, report to an educator or guide. Judy issued a directive. Your dad and I could do without it when you play vigilante and get yourself injured. Ndo evoked Scratch's humble yet charming smile as he continued, but what about the time you and your father were vigilantes against Bellwether? Judy described the scenario as follows. I didn't know if I could believe the police at that point, what with all that was going on. Ndo pondered for a moment before muttering, I assume that seems alright. Alright, swear not to be so crazy now. Judy smiled. Try not to stress Mother, Ndo said softly while cradling his hair. Mother. I'll be alright, he thought eventually. On his walk home from school, Ndo, who was 13 at the time, sensed an odd premonition-like presence. Both his parents had been assigned long moves, so he had to go back home. I know you're there, you can come out, was said, and a few people momentarily came out of the darkness. Everything he observed was prey. A huge camel, a high school rhino with a warped horn, and a woodchuck who looked to be in his 40s and was holding a metal bat were some of the most impressive. Ndo looked about at the many creatures. I wonder how many prey animals could frighten a 13-year-old fox at this time. I heard you single out guiltless prey creatures, the woodchuck replied, grinning menacingly down at the blonde fox. Presently you will pay for harming them. Ndo threw the object holding him into the woodchuck after noticing an odd heartbeat. The woodchuck watched in disbelief as all the creatures were brought down without help, but Ndo quickly surrounded the hooligans, hitting them in the sides of their necks and killing them all. The madman sliced down the bat as Ndo attempted to escape, but he grabbed him from behind and held it over his knees. Ndo then got out his phone, made a call to his parents, and snapped photos of the friendly creatures in his immediate vicinity. I just hurt the people who assault others for their own entertainment, whether they are hunters or prey, stated Ndo. Hello, Mom, said the one who told you that I had just assaulted prey. As Scratch and Judy saw all of the criminals being restrained and removed, they glanced at their child, who was grinning shyly. So, how precisely did you use warm blood to stop these things? Judy said, glancing down at Ndo. Judy deadpanned as she walked to the cross-examination room, where the seat was connected to the woodchuck that had attempted to disable her child, while Ndo explained, trustworthiness, I have no clue. Ndo then added, try asking the woodchuck, he was taken out last. Judy pretended to be in terrible shape. Judy had walked directly into the woodchuck's face when she first entered the room, and her expression was wearing him down. Without any more pushing, the poor warm-blooded creature confessed, okay sir, you will let me simply know it you were wanting to do to my child. You have to understand that the thing you call your child was a bad force. All he could utter was, that oddity show ought to be secured, dirty D-dash, before Judy kicked him in the jaw and pulled him away. He was too quick to possibly be a straightforward fox, and he took all the warm-blooded creatures out with neck strikes, and those eyes the woodchuck exhaled. Insane woodchuck snarled, they were crimson, devilish even. Carrots, are you okay? Asked Scratch, who had almost ever seen his beloved in this condition. Our youngster needs to be guarded because that edited wood controlled claims that he did all that exclamation point quote what did you hear from No? Snarled Judy. A falsehood finder was placed on his arm, it's reality. No tells me that the woodchuck in there planned to handicap him when he felt an odd heartbeat. After that there are a few memory holes, remarked Scratch, scowling at Judy's peculiar expression. Fox Beast was hanging out with Finnick, his father's best friend, who had an unfathomably deep voice for a creature his size and didn't take dung from anyone. I think it should go without saying, but even if you're paid off, don't call him short. You just don't make it happen, like when you call someone Akimichi fat. Hey Finnick, what do you do if you can't get payback on someone? Questioned Fox Beast. Finnick looked at the unit next to him and considered his answer. Finnick said, basic, take a stab at envisioning the individual who hurt you in a torment scene. Fox Beast made the decision to try it, and for some reason, he imagined an animal he had never seen before, palely tanned, with long dark hair and a crimson shield. He witnessed burn marks, fillet wounds, stabbings that seemed to have been caused by giant paws, and nasty crawlies that were eating him from the inside out. Finnick installed his gatekeeper, as he had instinctively done. Thanks for the tip, Uncle Finnick. Fox Beast's gag smiled twistedly, and then, for no apparent reason, Finnick felt a chill go down his spine. As the Fox Beast vanished from view, Finnick pondered, why do I feel like I made a terrible mistake? He laughed till he could no longer see Fox Beast, and it wasn't a mad crazy snigger, but one of those plots from a successful youngster. I can't completely accept that it was this simple to get under Uncle Finnick like that, Fox Beast said after processing his voice, but he was starting to see things differently. But what was the last image I had? He asked, as a piece of paper blew in the wind and struck him in the face, without realizing it was the first page. First Light Bellwether, the former chairman of City, escapes jail. A weird apparition hovered in front of a trembling sheep, while a rhino and a hippo stayed by its side. Through a heavy layer of gas, the creature's voice sounded like static and strangled. You can cut the demonstration, Bellwether, no one purchases that act any longer. At any rate, Bellwether's face stiffened, she became taller, and she sounded very lethal for a sheep of her size, her speech free of stammers and stutters, and she said, what? In essence, what about getting even with the people who imprisoned you? Quote the enigmatic individual inquired. I'm tuning in. I charge you to kidnap 2 specific mammals. Exactly who is it? Bellwether asked. We agreed to a deal. Bellwether was instantly shocked, absolved up to the amount, and snatched up the vials of a well-known violet prescription. When Nick and Judy seemed to gather their beloved sons and inject this into both of them, brainstormed the headline, Zootopia's hero cops asleep by their own sons. The mask-wearing animal smiled and, in a stunning move, lifted his arch through the mask's affectation to display a large, firm chicken eye. 2 fox kits alleged Ndo and Fox Beast. Vivienne glared at her teenage brother and abruptly stopped the music. What are your thoughts? She asked. It's good, Reynard replied, but I anticipate Thousand Hoof Crutches better. Really? What is causing Lindsay Sterling's odd behavior? She plays the violin like no other artist and shows up at the time mentioned. Yoru answered the door with a distressed expression on her face after the siblings' music-related fight was over. According to Reynard, I aloof anticipate that there are bigger concerts to go to. The fox batten with the attached ears exclaimed, Hey Sibs, we got an austere problem, in a harsh tone. Vivienne asked her sister in fear, what's going on right now? Was the way I met my adult cancelled? Yoru replied, something more serious. Do you think that sheep's parents were detained for assembling the Night Howler drug? Before raising her sister's eyebrows. Yeah, it's the vigilante adventure they played in, Reynard replied. Why? After looking around the room, Yoru concluded that she was attracted for their lost youngest and oldest brothers. She has a capable prison, and I doubt that she will harbor resentment toward our parents, and will apparently use the bristles. Oh wait, Yoru said, taking a bi-weekly behind her back. Where are Ndo and Fox Beast? Reynard requested, causing the Flying Fox amalgam to act badly, in the remote hope that his younger and older brothers were doing well. Ndo could only dimly recall the events, aside from the sophisticated cyberbanking lock mechanism. He and his brother Fox Beast were walking home from academy in Sahara aboveboard, devoid of any artistic flair, when he began wearing a metal collar around his neck. He was conscious of his neighbor's peculiar bite, which he allowed to touch indiscriminately. There were also several lustful openings in the back of his neck that he recognized. In the faint light, Ndo looked around him and saw that he was in the previously mentioned accessible spot. He then looked over his shoulder and saw Fox Beast in a stubborn cage and cried, Ndo, is it you? What on earth is this location? It's Fox Beast, me. A small, snarly thing emerged from the shadows and proclaimed, "It's aloof, an old warehouse." "Who are you, lady? Why did you lock us up? We don't like your appearance!" The beast of the fox barked. "Your parents definitely did perceive me, even if you don't. Have they ever introduced you to Dawn Bellwether?" Nick and Judy were in a panic since their phones were too hefty to locate and their youngest and oldest attachments were gone. Nick, who has a lot of practice acting emotional, put on an enthusiastic front for his wife, in spite of his real concern. "They are able boys, Judy, they will be okay." Bogo said the balcony was Officers Wild, my office. The spouses went up the stairs to the chief's office, where the arch played a taped message and said, "We got a bulletin from her. Hello, is it Administrator Hops or Wild now? Congratulations on your marriage. I would have accepted being there in person if you hadn't locked me up. I accept the reality of your nine-tailed abominations with me, whether or not they are able-bodied. You want them back? Come to this barn on the outskirts of town, of course. It's not like you'll be able to use your greatest weapons, so bring them. Goodbye." The fire alarm went off. It didn't seem like the particular brace was appropriate for this mission because they were physically fit and knew why the arch was there. "Officers Wild, you two are to go to this barn and arrest Bellwether and booty that set of equipment." "Yes, sir," Nick responded as Judy bowed and proceeded to the accumulator room. Nick and Judy were cutting a lot of fully adjustable body armor, and they could walk around in their approved badge outfits, and with various enhancements, they might also start in giant ascendancy vehicles. They arrived at the annex of a barn that was supposed to house their companions, and Nick opened the aperture to find them in cages. "Mom!" When they arrived to their hotel behind closed doors, their faces were tillous, and they thanked their lodgings for handling the situation so calmly. "Dad," murmured their accompanys. "In tears," Bellwether remarked, "oh, how touching, attachment reunited with their parents." "Bellwether, let them go. We're the ones who are starving!" Nick yelled. The two cages containing Ndo and Fox Beast opened when Bellwether activated a button on her wrist and a serum was inserted into their collars. They stopped just before they were about to burr for their parents, saying, "That day in the museum, I capital you to annihilate her, now you accept a changed choice." Dawn began to pace and said, "True, it is you two I want," and they absolved themselves by clutching their heads and saying, "Kill them, or they annihilate you." A fresh article regarding the hybrids suddenly surfaced, and Bellwether screamed, her face confused. Judy sounded horrified as she asked, "Bellwether, what did you inject them with?" With a voice full of disgust, the sheep replied, "A modified night howler serum. I was used to it by a masked animal that was angry with you two." Ndo and Fox Beast stood on their after legs, surrounded by a red animation. Nick and Judy were taken aback when Ndo, using a pretended accent, said behind the startled sheep, "Arrogant, Bellwether Barker." The ewe was so enraged that she was struck in the stomach, which caused her to fly out of the room and slam into the big metal warehouse doors. Fox Beast stated in the learned language, "Yuk, Ndo, Watashitachi Nai wa Shigoto ga Aramasu." "Databeo, Beast of Dajembu Fox!" Ndo sighed, and the two rushed out the door. Judy's radio is showing Officer Wild calling in the meantime. The alien chicken-eyed creature returned to its hiding spot and began to frantically scrabble. Through his gas affectation, the extraterrestrial beast acknowledged that he was a boob and that his strings had been severed prior to his anatomy collapsing in the arena into a blowsy heap. "This is too easy." A new atramentus reality that looked like tar poured into a hole in the ground from the holes in the clothing. Ndo detected a bite on the back of his abutting while taking the modified night howler medication. When the cage opened, he found the collar was unusually near to his abutting alone. He then had an unexpected blackout and fell to his hands and knees. Food, rival male, and kill. But as he followed them, he heard pain. Seeing his parents ahead of him, he said, "Make it stop." It's remarkable that No stopped when he turned to face the red-eyed fox, and his old instincts whispered, "Comrade." Below certain threshold, the urge to kill was alluring to Nick and father, but No believed it didn't work. He looks to Fox Beast and says, "Nice-un." He says databeo a lot, but he doesn't know why he was seeing visions of an activity that wasn't his own, of memories that were substituted. As he gazed at Judy, a fresh beef grew around him, allowing the appellation Okasan. He had never heard his brother's articulation before. After they acknowledged that they had been healed, Fox Beast told Ndo, "We charge acknowledgement to the timberline and activate the humans." When a red animation whirled around them, Ndo got back up and stood far away from Fox Beast. Core energy was the first thing that came to mind, so he put the ability off for later and concentrated on Bellwether's distance. The ewe was so enraged that a core energy-powered fist struck her in the stomach, sending her flying over the edge and crashing into the large metal doors of the warehouse. "Thanks, Bellwether Barker." Their parents were stunned. The Fox Beast batted against him, but he was not yet focused. The exact tick startled Ndo a little and he yelled, "Hang on, Fox Beast. I'm about to go, Databeo exclamation point quote and ran out the doorway with Fox Beast at his side. With their abnormal backbones now in place, strength poured into the abnormal crimson gas that pervades their bodies, and a peculiar accent when they talked. Judy saw her youngest and oldest boys dash out the doorway, looking like totally transformed beasts. Aloof, what were they saying? In particular, what did Bellwether do to her children? On their way to the Rainforest District, Ndo Wild and Fox Beast Wild have been given a modified night howl serum. This is Administrator Nick Wild, Nick said, pressing his advice device. Among other things, the modified serum seems to be able to withstand an increase in backbone and acceleration. Nick created this bulletin for the precinct and cleared Judy. Caution advised, bringing in sample. As Nick climbed into the car to go buy a belt, he said, "We will get our engagement back, Judy." Judy quickly went to the other ancillary and intervened, saying, "Come on." Ndo and Fox Beast were ambushed in the middle of a cesspool pipe in the jungle district. Fox Beast, what should we do? Ndo asked. After accepting a job to perform, Ndo, we were beatific here. That's why we created these bodies. According to Fox Beast, we charge to get our company free. You're right, Fox Beast, do you think we ought to make the article more adaptable? Maybe adjure some weapon and shuriken while we are at it, Fox Beast retorted. In the Momenton, Banbatsu Sozo no Spirit Art. The boys grinned as they reviewed the Duke signs. They also made 2 sets of permitted ninja accessories with 50 weapons, 100 shuriken, 30 meters of ninja wire, and a set of permitted cardboard explosives per pack. The foxes exclaimed without making a mistake as core energy started to cloudburst out of their bodies. The foxes were chopping up Chunin quick black diaphoresis pants, a similarly colored connected sleeved top, and misused coats from the Hyde Ninja Village. Fox Beast, do you wish to bastard the burial or appearance of ? Ndo whispered, his eyes flashing and flaming. I expect you to perceive the answer to that, said Fox Beast, his eyes gleaming with the previously described arch. Their accommodations were, in fact, bent from timberline to timberline, as if it were extra nature, and Siffer was able to get their kids until they grew used to hearing a broadcast from the rainforest commune that 2 nine-tailed foxes were definitely prancing over the treetops, and only after seeing the video did Judy and Nick believe it. Bellwether was currently being transferred to a medical ward, as she had multiple access ribs and perforated lungs. What precisely was in the serum? Judy asked, and seemingly at the same time, several members of the forensics team fell into the containers containing the serum and other compounds. A wounded horse said, we analyzed the serum, we began traces of assorted chemicals, but there was article odd that we came across. After being schooled on a clipboard, a newborn Atramentus buck declared, we start what appears to be an annual of the Borchero tree. The actuality is generally alleged devil's breath, the horse continued. Nick and Judy were frightened when they learned the name of the substance. However, the bog seems to accept being adapted somehow, best acceptable in an abandoned environment. We accept an accepted approach on the serum itself, we accept its ambition is to abolish the accepted personality, so an altered one, the beastly instincts, to booty its abode, and blot the old personality of the mammal with the new one. Doing this would best acceptable accomplish the accepted antitoxin abortive, as the instincts become allotment of the person. If that's the goal, why are our sons using that language? Nick responded, I'm not familiar with it, and batted up in response to the assertion that Aboriginal animals had their own language. Could any of your sons bear such destruction? The Vulpine stated, we accept 2 acknowledged theories, to which the irritation replied, the Aboriginal theory demands addition to accept MPD, various personality disorder MPD. None that we perceive of, Judy retorted. Well, the additional approach is a bit adamantine to acknowledge for some people. How exactly? Are you both reincarnationists? Judy curved her eyes in response to Nick's statement, when your girlfriend's hometown is surrounded by billions of people, it's kind of the alone option. The fact that whoever gave Bellwether the serum capital was correct to accept it because he acknowledged knowing who their successful selves were lends credence to the opposite theory, which holds that the serum restored your son's successful lives and given them the abilities they now cherish. You're starting to burrow a bit into the supernatural, said Judy disbelievingly. Well, that is the alone affair we can go on, additional some of the things they did do abatement into the abnormal category. As he walked into the chamber, McCorn remarked, Officers Wild, your companies have been spotted annex appear Sahara Square. Ndo and Fox Beast were residing on the hill between Sahara Square and the far-off rainforest commune, looking out at the desolate beach-covered landscape as silently as they had been at the summit. We will accept Tabuti Gara and Shukaku actuality at some point, don't you exceed Ndo? Fox Beast asked his brother, who nodded. The boys were talking when they heard a helicopter land behind them. The men were encircled by the numerous animals that jumped from the helicopter, while the foxes waited at the corner of the wall with Sahara aboveboard behind them. There were 12 SWAT animals at Atomic. Stay calm, a mammal urged, for the clever foxes raised their arms and fell backward, making them look lovely from below, and the best of the creatures hurried to watch what would happen. The no spirit art of Furitoskutsu is a success! Ndo smiled. He had tails, legs, and accessories, and attenuated threads of core energy appeared between them like alloyed bolts. He could utilize his tails to make a vertical advance, which provided him accretion acceleration and made him hardly go higher, or he could employ wind absolution to distribute the wind to authority him up from a distance. After spreading the spirit art, they began jumping from rooftop to rooftop. They were already on solid ground when Fox Beast arrived at a suitable landing site and yelled, "Let's acreage on that building." Ndo remarked, "You think they're going to ambush you? If they can apprehend our accessible pattern, a fresh yes." In order to figure out how to manage the bearings in the different situation, there was an affair in the bullpen. After concluding that all mammals had left for their various pale-out credibility in the Arctic town, Bogo said, "Officers Wild, you both will be absorption the abstract bay, dismissed." "Everyone," the arch said, "we accept begin an isle that the aboriginal animals are taking, based on the route, they should be at the Arctic boondocks anchorage or all the hour." Bogo pointed to a map of the anchorage breadth and began forming teams, saying, "I appetite teams of Admiral in these locations." The mooring location was attractive to the mammals, and Ndo was beautiful in the bay from a safe distance, while Fox Beast appeared to be dozing off in a sitting position behind him. Fox Beast awoke from his sleep and declared, "I accept begin Nick and Judy. They are absorption abstract bay, west of here." Ndo smiled and said, "Good, let's go Fox Beast." Then he noticed an abstract obstructing their exit from the arena. The guys continued down the bank until they arrived at the bay in question, where Nick and Judy were present along with several other admirals heavily armored in anatomical gear. "No, what's the plan?" Fox Beast asked thoughtfully. Before jumping out of their ambuscade domicile and a few meters from the police, Ndo began to magnify a bit. "Fox Beast, adapt a baby bijudam and aim it at the iceberg. I will abstract the officers," he commanded. "Ndo!" exclaimed Judy. Before dispatch arrived to meet him, Nick was right behind him. Ndo swiped lightly when one of the wolves threw a trank at him in a rage, and the other police heard him say, "Sorry about this, Mom, Dad." He threw it back at the offender, hit him in the wrist, and then fastened it between his modified base and regular finger. The Fox Beast jumped out of the cops and over the officers as two wolves reappeared, and after swallowing an object for a back abscess like a balloon, he cut an axle at the iceberg. This provocation caused an Oedipus to react, and Ndo emerged, confused, into a custom T-spirit art position, and began to backbreak the large beast out, avoiding the hippo's punches and apps. Ndo stopped the backward knees as he began to attack, and the Oedipus fell with a bang as the mammal's animation became rough. The fire startled the genuine officers. The Admiral fell to the ground. The berg spread out, leaving plenty of room between it and the axle, and the river showed the forgiveness of Ndo and Fox Beast. Judy cried out amid gasps, wait! She suddenly lost her anticipation as Ndo stood next to her. He dropped on his knees and took something from her belt. When Judy looked up, she saw that the tracking chip was alive and that the baby account was in Ndo's pistol holster. "I was perplexed. Did these sons of hers gain such authority?" she said. They would choke to death, Judy thought, but as Ndo was exiting the sea, a new object appeared with the words, "See you soon." She and her boys were walking on water. Judy played for her radio on her hip. She answered, "Officer Wild calling in." Judy connected into her communicator and left with the last words, "This is Administrator Wild. Ndo and Fox Beast Wild escaped. Ndo has a tracker dent on him, requesting medical absorption for squadron." Nick was by her side as she woke up in a medical bed and noticed Arch Bogo airing in once more. "What's my accepted antithesis, Chief?" Judy inquired. Bogo carefully checked Judy and explained, "Well, your injuries were minimal, and admitting you should be taken out of the acreage for a while due to these, you and your bedmate are bald abnormally for this abutting phase." Judy asked, "What appearance specifically?" Bogo stated, "We like your calm demeanor and believe that you and your roommate are the most daring individuals. We are going to speed up a helicopter after your sons. We can give you the best decision regarding whether or not to go," Bogo said. Judy refused to wait for his wife's response, but Nick smiled at her enthusiasm. "Definitely." Nick and Judy were Bogo coiling away as soon as they got on the helicopter. "There's a chopper on the roof, cat and mouse for us," Nick said as Judy straightened up. "All right, let's get some carrots that need action." The three admirals excused themselves up the stairs and went to the Doing CH-47 Chinook cat and mouse on the roof. By the time Ndo batted up, they had already traveled several of kilometers out to sea, and Fox Beast was nervous while Ndo was strolling calmly till they reached the shore, where the deity tree was visible. "Fox Beast," Ndo murmured to his brother and old friend, "something seems wrong with you because you're so uptight." Fox Beast gazed at his approach, spotted blood, coughed thankfully, and put his larboard duke accoutrement in his mouth. What's happening? This anatomy was not apparent to core energy connected abundant to handle a tailed barbarian brawl unscathed. Afterwards treatment, this barge will atrophy in an 8-way Yukimaru's anatomy did. No shuddered at the idea of his core energy arrangement being jumbled, his lifespan being severely limited, and the fact that he would never be able to use core energy again. Until the god Timberline cured him, that is. So we will charge to get to the Timberline or the averting few canicule, or you won't accomplish it, remarked Ndo. Yes, till we arrive, how connected are we? Quote the beast Fox asked. After becoming used to a sort of homing faculty to obtain the tree, Ndo beatific out to activate the humans in response to his friend's adaptation of the infinite Tsukiyomi, saying, well, some performers who were abstinent became bankrupt, and forceful sites sank under the ocean years ago. I appraisal additional 121 miles, at our accepted clip and the accepted we are walking on, I would say addition day and the bisected trek. By the time they started walking together, Fox Beast said, great then, adding that, we should be able to reach the Timberline. Sadly, an atramentus balloon with sickly chicken eyes and a few hundred nervous people under the sea followed the two foxes. Judy could see the beautiful ocean scenery through the glass of the helicopter, but she was too scared of her boys to see anything. Even though the Legamoth's back was sagging, Nick managed to explain, you saw what they did back there. Nick moaned and looked at the map on the phone, measuring the width of the aisle his sons were walking down, until he noticed a newborn island. They be all right, Judy. Hey carrots, Nick remarked, gesturing to the baby island while showing Judy the awning on his phone. I hope I see how far our boys are going. Do you think our sons will be so diverse? Yup, unless they are activity underwater about this is the alone solid acreage abutting by. Ample Bristling completely recognized the baby island, which was about a mile wide and completely adapted to annihilation, but he was abnormally surprised when they reached the bank, and he looked at the 9 acicular star-like leaves. Known Fox Beast connected for 36 hours to baptize airing, sometimes indefinitely already, and sometimes for a while, so Fox Beast could hem up blood. The Fox Beast, clutching a leaf, exclaimed, this is definitely the place. No turned to face the authority from which they had separated, ending their brief moment of agreement. It looks like we were followed, No said, gesturing to the far-off chopper. After that, the Volpines hurried into the woodland that was created using core energy, declaring, let's acquire the access quickly. As No and Fox Beast entered the next woodland through the glass, Judy was astounded by their beauty. When the mammal in the helicopter said, we agree to be the ladder, a wolf opened the aperture and began to fall violently into the forest below, and Nick, Judy, and the other real mammals aside from the pilot followed suit. There are no solid places to land, the pilot told Judy. Judy stepped through the undergrowth and entered the arena, noting that it was composed of solid familiar wood, free of dirt, twigs, and leaves. Has nobody observed this ? Judy asked. The bearded tiger asked Judy, and Judy explained what she saw. What are you saying? The wolf produced a Swiss Army knife, went up to one of the leaves, and authorized its plucking, because the arrangement of the foliage would not alter. Stay away! Shouted Nick as a gloveless Duke strode across the surface, arching down toward the floor. When the wolf whimpered, Nick looked up and took out his phone. He mumbled angrily on some appreciating camera, look at this, and Judy looked away in horror at what she saw. Nick was examining the tree with a califaction acute camera, and the anatomy was hot. What is this place exactly? Judy wondered herself. Judy said, yes. As she rushed into the administration that her buzz was directing her to, her own buzz beeped, and she glanced at it to see the track No had on him. No mammal saw the carrion-like atramentus balloon as they followed. So, we were followed by some mammals. Before sinking into the ground, the creature let out a sigh and watched them depart with its chicken eyes. The arena gave the all clear or pulled him back out. The monster slipped softly among the roots, coiling between them, whispering, no friends modifications are a curse. I will aloof get there the adamantine way, it said. Fox Beast and No proceeded to the bend in the road where a crater is reached by the roots. Is it possible for you to contact Fox Beast? No said. Despite the fact that No and Fox Beast had to overcome several obstacles, they were able to do it due to the core energy. Is it truly a cost to ask ? After a few stressful seconds, No walked to semi-akin terrain, set Fox Beast down, and then resumed daring alone. No smiled, shoved his sibling up in his trappings, and began down the crater's auxiliary. The Fox Beast snorted in response to No's remark, if this were a Vidigam, we apparently would accept to accomplish all those challenges. No and Fox Beast removed the block of the ample tree after they had acclimated one of the blue branches that were peacefully ahead of them as an arch to the center of the deity Timberline, which had a belvedere with a table that was affectionately aglow. When they arrived at the end of the tunnel, they found themselves in a cavern that was hundreds of meters high and meters deep, with several branches that were entirely blue with white bundles of photic from them strewed across the block and the board walls of the god tree, which stood in the center of the roomy cave. They knew the creatures well and were wary of them. Judy and Nick were enraged when they heard something being introduced behind her, saw the tiger grasping his arch on the ground, and were astounded by the size of the tree as she was descending down the adit, which, if she knew, dropped for kilometers downhill. After the wolf cleared him, the tiger showed up and said, "Are you okay?" As he spoke, the tiger stepped forward slightly, his atramentous curve quivering. The tiger muttered, "Run," and then moved his hand. In reality, a sickly chicken ball had taken the place of his eye. Black tendrils affect and bring down the wolf. As two atramentous tendrils emerged, Nick said, "Go, Judy," and hurried after her down the tube before the atramentous mass materialized. "We're almost there, Nick!" Judy wailed as she replied, "Captivate my hand!" Nick and Judy were standing on the annex, and Ndo and Fox Beast were ahead, so they didn't have time to enjoy the arena because of the atramentous accumulation behind them. Nick became enraged and pulled Judy away with his biceps after she tripped over a root. They then began running harder and faster to the opening. The atramentous bulk stooped down to the dynamic duo and dropped them with two airy tentacles, seemingly dooming them. "Race and shuriken in the wind style," cried Judy. A dejected spinning DJ flew into the large atramentous balloon and exploded upon hearing her son's articulation acknowledgement. Previously aglow, behemothic, and pleasantly effective, she refused to spend time at breadth. "Are you okay?" Ndo said, observing the anxious looks on his parents' cheeks. Nick stuttered, "Your mother and I are all right." Then, an austere burn scorched his face. Before they heard the atramentous balloon behind them traveling rearward jointly, Nick had started ranting. "You accept a lot, adolescent Todd." "No, we accommodated again," muttered the atramentous thing's sickly chicken eyes as it gazed brazenly at the aureate fox. "I never anticipation I would see you again, Zetsu." "Yes, but you never really cut me off." The Mizukage and that sad-looking infant had one bisected affianced downward, and the other bisected was angry with you. The acting seal they had to give me failed after many hundred years. However, while you were all unconscious, I could run away and plot. The atramentous buildup had millions of years to do so, Zetsu said, because his anatomy was acceptable in 2/1/2, or division. Nick and Judy were astounded that this affair had been going on for millions of years, and that her boys were as far away as this object. When a crimson luminous fox jumped alongside Ndo, Judy's concentration was disrupted. "Ndo, are you ready?" Fox Beast questioned, his expression displaying rage. With their core energy cloaks gleaming, the two foxes turned to confront atramentous Zetsu. "I expect you already perceive the acknowledgement of that, Fox Beast," the fox said with a smile. The action began when Ndo made three aphotic beneath adumbration clones and sent them at Zetsu, the aboriginal Ndo archetype, who calmly blocked the wolf's flurry of bliss. The third clone was authoritative and threw an article at the third clone, abrading its high cheek and adapting beneath the eye. The wolf then threw an article at the third clone, causing it to hit the tiger with a wind ball, resulting in a depressing brawl without ambition, but injuring the tiger's larboard bicep. Additionally, his pupils were an ember orange blush, rather than the aureate orange that came with the cloak. And finally, Ndo sat still, gaining core energy. The broom dispersed, and a red four-tailed demon with abandoned white eye sockets continued to occupy the same space as before. Fox Beast and Ndo stood ancillary by side, their paws intertwined, and in their kami a purple-red race and shuriken was also forming. Fox Beast then extended his accoutrements to bang Zetsu, and the atramentous accumulation averted the extendable appendages. Scorch-themed race and shuriken at Zetsu, the toddlers yelled and threw the spinner aggressive. An aureate alternation appeared from Ndo's lumbar, lower back, much over his tails, after he completed another round of Duke signals. Ndo continued bashing the affair around in an attempt to hit the angry blob after the alternation flew past Zetsu and his bedector pace and destroyed them in the blazing struggle of death. Nick and Judy were securely enjoying this comedy the whole time. Judy answered, "What the devil? Are these our kits now in use?" Nick kept his sense of humor in the midst of frightening situations, saying, "I think adolescence has a strange look, but this is absurd." Judy remarked worriedly, "This is serious, Nick, and we're going to help them." According to Nick, who was watching Ndo and Fox Beast execute a second race and shuriken, "This looks like an action of cool mammals. Agnosticism we could advise them." After throwing, Ndo was able to target for the prior assault and throw a second chain, which he acknowledged had a crimson afterglow. "As if I'm doing something to let you," Zetsu remarked, and pounded the tiger to seize the chain. A ridiculous error. As the tiger was hit, Ndo's gaze expanded. The only way Zetsu can smirk is by himself. Until the rash and abscess on the tiger's arms started to spread like a disease. In an abnormal appearance, Zetsu advances by tearing off the tiger's arm and throwing it toward Ndo and Fox Beast. As Zetsu's anatomy changed to replace the missing limb, the tiger in catechism appeared unfazed by the action. Fox Beast bent that limb, taking whatever pain was in the beef and turning it into red core energy. He threw the limb into the hole below them, alone. Red-orange Acerb core energy chains struck Zetsu in the back as he was about to advance again. Zetsu was enraged when he noticed a carbon with a stain under its eye. It was the earlier carbon. In order to get to an aphotic area, its charge accept made an appearance and crept below them. Zetsu examined the extent to which the core energy was influencing him. He grinned and gave the go-ahead to blot it. Since the Acerb core energy was authoritative and his beef disintegrated, the crucial talk was approved. You cursed Kitsune. You have such a powerful inner energy that I could be consumed by it too. When the carbon abaft Zetsu was applied, the chains fell backwards, and they remained that way for a few abnormalities before dispelling. Zetsu smiled as he said, but it looks like it uses absolutely a bit of core energy, alike for you too. He could hear the race and shuriken moving behind him, but he ducked and leaned down. The Atramentus discomforted mission was quick and split his anatomy in two. Zetsu was momentarily surprised when the foxes appeared behind his two behindhand and kicked them into the abyss, causing him to look away from Ndo and Fox Beast. Oh no! Zetsu cried from both sides as he collapsed, and Fox Beast and Ndo sat down, disintegrating their core energy cloaks and letting forth sad exhalations. Fox Beast responded, "This is our adventitious Fox Beast," and Ndo exhaled. Nick and Judy stood there, frightened by what they had seen, and cried, "Let's end this." Still in disbelief from the altercation, Judy stumbled, "Hold on, everyone. You consent to answering a lot of questions!" Ndo twitched his additional appendage on his adapted side. Fox Beast twitched his adapted ear afore he vomited blood. Judy responded by a live over to Fox Beast and captivation him. "Son, what's happening? How may I be of assistance?" In order to help his wife and oldest kid, Judy pleaded with Nick to arrive as soon as possible. Judy was similarly shocked, if that was possible, as Fox Beast croaked, get me to the table. This barge will die before the end of the day." "Son," Nick informed Fox, "you're not going to die on us, I think you won't." According to Ndo, he said his anatomy was dying, he aloof needs to get back to his old body. The table in the Aboriginal Three Ripples was a flaming tan amphitheater with 3 tomo, as Fox Beast acquired popularity and became the center of attention in the Arbor Cavern. In this scenario, Nick and Judy were at a loss for words, but they chose not to counsel the youngsters. The ancestors were already seated at the table when Ndo moved to a board that was mounted to the wall and took out a wooden container. He handed it over and opened the case to see 9 tomo-shaped diamonds, the most attractive of which were the little creatures on the middle anniversary one, a chibi replica of the tailed beasts. Nick smiled nostalgically and said, "Ndo, what are those?" "The best description would be that they are keys," he commented. "What keys are involved here?" Judy asked. With his board cavern appropriate equipment out, Ndo was captivated. He responded, "To this, I shall explain aggregators anon, since Fox Beast is not in an aggressive state of activity. Is that acceptable?" Nick and Judy nodded, unwilling to worry about their oldest kid. Ndo placed the stones on the table. "You accessible, Fox Beast?" he asked. "Given this abutting point, I would commend the Tailed Monsters song for its attention." Ndo smiled at the main joke, and everyone resumed chanting as Fox Beast spat out, "I was built in ready." The jewel of a raccoon-like animal flew from the pile and into one of the tomo-shaped holes on the alien side of the table, so startled was the gem Ariel that it struck Nick and Judy. Ndo and Fox Beast began a new verse, Hitotsu, Shukaku, Hito Yori and Imuri. Feimotru, Futatsu, Matadabi! After flying into one of the extra holes in the alien rim, the disillusioned feline with 2 capes said, "2, ablaze with light, Matadabi." When the 3-tailed turtle appeared, Nick and Judy saw a pattern. Isobu, Mitsu, Mizunara Makasero. 3, let him baptize, Isobu. The abbey said, Imgan Atsuizi, Yotsu, Sun Gok. 4, hot as lava, Sun Gok, as she walked to a seat in the middle of the table. 5, running ceaselessly, Kokum, Itsatsu, Itsudimo Keikashai. Where did the horse go? Later, they would agree to ask. Dolphin? In your opinion, was that an animal slug? Mutsu, Seiken, Muri Sezu Awatezu. 6, not in a hurry, Seiken, and not debauchery it. Now, firmly place the tomo in the center. Number 7 is Chmei, the aerial blade beetle. Chmei, Nanatsu, and Nanafushi Soratobu. But who made these things? Nick saw that Ndo seemed to shift positions before he said the final sentence. Yatsu, Yupari W plus Darzi, Jiki! 8, Jiki, we, as anticipated. Why was there an octopus's tentacles on the balderdash? The diamond that held the Fox Beast was the sole item still on the larboard. Son, Y dash was all Nick could manage before the lads completed their ritual. As the final distribution arrived at the new place, the men shouted, 9, past and present, almighty, Fox Beast. Koken to Sekum, Kokonotsu, Fox Beast. For a minute there was only silence. Ndo and Fox Beast, afflicted by aphotic spikes of ivory, squelched, breaking the reddening of the table from the fox's claret.